So quick framing for today, and I just use the really simple framework of what, who, and why. Many of you have kind of heard part of this, but I always like to start with what do we mean by small? Because there's a lot of people, especially that are either new to this or people in the industry that are coming from bigger places. They say, well, what do you mean by small? And they always start with, because real estate's so quantitative, like how many square feet and how many dollars? And I like to say it's a qualitative discussion, not a quantitative discussion. And I love this phrase from Witold Rybinski's book about really this, to me, defines the essence of small. It's individuals building places that people come to love because they're incrementally done over time and they get a sense of time and age and place that you can't get by building at a bigger institutional way of thinking. And so I use this graphic a lot because I think it tells such a great story of what was small. The guy that bought one lot and built a row home and two next to it to kind of pay the mortgage and provide some more affordable housing for the people who lived in the community, and somebody built something down the street, and over time it filled in and became the neighborhoods we loved. And as you walk around Savannah today, you'll see a lot of this kind of stuff. And it's like, it's before missing middle housing was cool. You'll see a lot of great missing middle housing everywhere. So take the time to kind of, not too much time, but take the time as we're walking to stop and look and just capture this imagery, because the texture and grain of this place is pretty amazing. Small is a method for building enduring places. And I love to use the shorthand that small is a means to the end. And I'd like to think everybody in this room is here for a reason, and that's because you see real estate as a way to build great places, not just about building real estate. It's the vehicle by which we create community, and that's what small is all about. And then the last one is this idea that small is not a product, but it's a series of elements. It's this constellation of ideas that support three things: the economy, housing, and placemaking. And within that, a whole series of things that people are working in: food and beverage, missing middle housing, co-working, urban manufacturing, some of the cool tactical urbanism, arts. All of those things feed into this larger ecosystem that is building small. So who is small? And I put this one together late at night, like I usually do with these things, in Philadelphia, but I really loved the story that it told, because I was trying to think about, why do so many people keep coming back to this? What's attracting you into this room? And I came up with the 5 things that connect us. Who are we in this room? So the first one is this idea of what I love to call incremental experimental. And I think there's a lot of the really cool projects that are going on. This is one of the speakers in Philadelphia. That is a 7-unit townhome project on a 90 by 11-foot lot. And so talk about incremental and experimental, but he had hacked away within the codes to create these really gorgeous buildings, kind of sitting in this urban concept. So the idea of experimenting at a smaller scale to learn to do bigger things, and doing that incrementally so that both as your organization and your enterprise grows, so does the kinds of projects that you're doing. The second one is, we always talk about human scale, but I like to talk about humane scale. And we walked by this coffee shop yesterday, but just the love of seeing people out on the street, the way that buildings address the public realm, the way that things connect to the community. There's a humanity about that that's also about the scale that we work. Aspire to inspire. And one of the things I love about here, and you'll hear about this today, is just the incredible creativity and expression of art, and how, at least for me, it gives a lot of inspiration when I think about projects. And it's one of the things I love that I hear when people leave this conference is, I'm so inspired. I was so down in the dumps. I couldn't get my deal to work. I'm feeling so beat up, and now I feel like I can go back and I can actually get this done. So there's an inspirational part of this, and I think we all desire and need to ask for better. I think a lot of our communities have kind of accepted the minimum standard that can get approved, and we should all be pushing for better. And then the last one, or the second to last one, is the joy of building. Friend Alan Razak, some of you met him when we were in Philadelphia, and he said, we were on a call and we were talking about this stuff, and he said, we're all in this business because we want to build something. We don't want to write policies. We don't want to do plans that sit on the shelf. We actually want to get our hands dirty and build something. And so I think there is a joy, as frustrating as it is, as maddening as it is, there's a joy in seeing things get completed. And that, I use the word joy spelled that way rather than the other way, because there was this book I came across last year that I thought there were so many things that it talked. This was about how to live like a Parisian. And there were so many things that the rules that they used that to me spoke to what we do as small. Pleasure in being, connections through food, bringing people together, and celebrating and protecting the arts. And then the last one is to make a dent. And this is a great quote that I found from Steve Jobs, but it's like, we're here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why else even be here? So I want to end with the why, and that's why Savannah. I've had a lot of people say, first of all, how many people have been here before? Have been here, okay, how many people haven't been here? It should have gone that way, yeah. Okay, say a lot of you. That would be good for you, Robin, to know. And I've been, as I said, I've been thinking about this. 20 is a big milestone for me. This is the 20th one in 11 years. So, and each time it just seems to get better and better. I'm always worried that the next one's not going to be as good. And it just seems to get better and bigger and more, and expanded. We're up to 3 days now of programming. But there are a lot of reasons as I was thinking about where to take 20, why I chose Savannah. And the first was the power of creativity. And I talked about SCAD, and I talked about what you'll see. And to me, there's just so many great things about their work and their influence on the buildings and the built environment that infuses this sense of art and playfulness and whimsy with the built environment. And so I love this quote about the idea that you don't wait for a perfect moment, but you find creativity in the ordinary. And I think you'll see when we go to Petter today, just go into the bathrooms, because there's some really clever, the mundaneness of a bathroom, what they've done there is actually really pretty magical. And this space that we're going to see in Petter. The second is entrepreneurial endurance. And as entrepreneurs, I know we all get pretty exhausted, pretty beat up, kind of lonely. That's why I think a lot of people like this, is you find it. I hear so many times, I found my tribe. But those of you that read the book, I thought it was such a great story about hanging in there and sticking to your goals and your vision. And the phrase that came up time and time again that I loved was, that's not how it's done. So many things that she ran into that were, that's not how it's done. And yet, they did it anyways, and what you'll see and the impact that it's had around town is largely because they did not how it's normally done. And then the last one is, just as those of you that walked around yesterday, and I hope you'll have time to explore between our packed schedule, is just the nature of this place, which our next speaker is going to share with you, is the idea of fine-grained urbanism. And I use this series a lot whenever I'm talking about my book. But it's the comparison of the Savannah grid to Irvine on the right, and the resulting kind of blockscape. Liz Dunn uses the word blockscape that results in Savannah versus Irvine. And I often talk to students and I say, imagine how you can, over time, incrementally take down a building, add a building, change a building, versus on the right, what do you do with that? How do you make that back to that idea of humane scale? How do you ever get there? So the idea of this fine-grained pattern that really makes a big difference in that's where you start and the kind of humanity and physical form it creates. But there was this article that Andrew Price wrote in Strong Towns that I quote a lot because I loved his. It was coarse-grained versus fine-grained urbanism. And he talks about the value of fine-grained urbanism as, providing diversity of ownership in the blocks, a lower cost of entry because the parcels are smaller, more destinations. And I think you'll see as you're walking, we're going to walk some long distances, but it won't feel like it because it's just such a delightful series of places along the way that it's again, that blockscape, that scenery that makes the long distance feel much shorter. But the last one that I love the most is this idea of the greater resistance to bad buildings. And those of you that were on the walk with me yesterday, and I pointed out the Savannah Theater as we were headed to Perry Lane, if you look at that, that's a really boring building. It has 3 blank walls. Without the marquee, it's blank. But you don't really notice it because of the context and the granularity around it and the way that it kind of absorbs and in some ways deflects the banality of that building. So anyways, this is the perfect segue to our next speaker, Robin Williams. I'll let you come on up.